It's 9:15 in the morning, Sunday morning. It's a bit warm, and what we're going to try and attempt to do today is fish the 5 rivers that Sheffield's actually built round. And we're going to try and catch a fish on each one of these rivers by fly fishing. I mean, hopefully we'll catch a wild brown trout in each one of these rivers. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off fishing the Porter, then we're going to go into the Sheaf, then the Rivelin, then the Loxley, and then the Don. And if we're lucky enough, we might even catch on dry flies. If not, then we will use a wet fly. But what I'm going to use, we're going to take telescopic rods, so I can have 2 setups, one for the dry and one for the nymph. And they're just basic setups, and I mean, it means that I can keep them collapsed down when we're travelling from one venue to another, and it just saves time setting up. And I'm just going to pop these together now, and then we'll get off. But I've got 2 reels loaded with 4 weight lines, and even though the rod's actually a 5-6 weight rod, we'll have no problems casting these lines. We've done it before with these rods. So what we'll do is just quickly tackle up, and then we'll get off. We're here on Porter. It's now 25 to 11, and we're going to try and put a dry fly down this first swim. We've just seen a fish top the once. We're going to give it a go, and if not, we'll move a little bit further upriver. There's 1 or 2 other little pools, but the river is very low and clear. I'm going to set a dry fly up, and what I've actually got is a little parrot olive tied on a size 18, which should represent terrestrials as well. I'm just going to cast that down into the swim and see whether we get any interest on it. So I'm just going to set the rod up now and then get into position and see if I can just put this fly down this swim. We've not seen anything topping in this swim, and I've put a dry fly down and nothing's come up, so I'm going to just try a little gold head nymph, just see if there's anything underneath taking anything, but there don't seem to be a lot of movement in this river at the moment. It is low, clear, but we'll give it a go with this one. water, little downy. Absolutely wonderful looking fish. I'm just going to pop this one straight back in now. So I'll just pop him. He's alright. He's gone back alright. That's the first fish on the quarter. We've caught it on a nymph, but it's now 10 to 11. And what we'll do, we're going to go further upstream just to see if there's anything stopping. I'd like to catch one on a dry fly. So we're just going to pack up now, move upstream, and if not, then we'll move on to our next river, which is the River Sheaf. Right, it's now nearly 11 o'clock. We've just moved round from that first swim. We're actually underneath Wilson's snuff mill here, and we've just seen a few little fish topping a little bit further upriver. So I'm going to try and present a dry fly to them and just see if I can catch on a dry fly, and if we can, then we'll move off to our next destination.
Wow, we just pulled that to that one.
I'll just see if I can see what these olives are. Right, I've just caught one. It's like a little day out of the lip. It's a small dark olive. Similar to the pattern I've got on. So I think we'll leave it at that. We've just settled back down again. It's now 11:45. It's red hot. We might be unlucky today in that we're not going to get that many fish rising to a fly. Hopefully we will catch a fish on each river by using a nymph. But if we can, we will try and catch on a dry fly just to show you the difference. But we're now going to move on to our next point of call, which is going to be the Regis River Sheaf. Right, it's now 20 to 1. We've just arrived on the River Sheaf. We've just popped onto the river near Beachy Hotel, and we've seen nothing rising at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop that little black gold head nymph down again through this little swim, just to see if we can catch anything. So I'm going to begin now. That was a good fish. Just pull that out. browning. Just get a nice neat shot of that. Hello. I'm just going to pop this one straight back into the river. What we're going to do now is we're going to move upstream just to see if we can find a fish that's topping, and we'll see if we can catch one on a dry fly now. I'm going to just tackle this one down and then we'll move upstream. This is on the river sheaf. We've just caught this mayfly. It looks like Danica to me. Three tails. I don't know whether you could pick that out on the back of my hand. Nice big fly. And it's nice to see them. We hope that one day we'll get one or two of these colonising River Don.
Right, Tommy's had one on the nymph and one on the dry on sheaf, and now we're going to fish dribbling.
We've just arrived on junction at River Loxley and River Riverlin. The time is now 5 to 4 and we've just picked up another mayfly. We've just seen one or two of these flying about. I'm just going to let that go onto the back of my hand. It might take off. And there we are, that's another mayfly. Beautiful. I've got exactly the same flies as I've had on all day, and we're going to see if there's anything moving up here.
It's a what?
The time is now 4:15. We've just had one on dry, on dribbling. I'm going to move a little bit further upstream and we're going to try to catch one on an in, and then we will fish the Loxley. time is now just gone 4:30. We've had 2 fish off the river, one on a dry, one on an in. We're now going to move onto the Loxley and then we'll do the done.
It's now 5:05 and Tom's just started fishing on River Loxley.
Oh, he's gone. I've done my juggling act last for today, that one, Steve. But that's one out dry anyway.
You get 5 minutes, Tom, and then go on done, eh?
Let's just have a quick look at here and then. It's now 20 to 7 and we've struggled on here a bit with nymph. I mean, it's a little bit overgrown. And I'm getting a bit too tired as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the Don, just to see if we can get a fish off there and then call it a day. It's just getting a little bit tiring now. It's now 7:10. And we're on last bit of journey. This is on the River Don. This is where all the other 5 rivers run into, or the 4 rivers, sorry, run into. And at the moment, there's nothing topping. Not a rise to be seen. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look round for a while and maybe fish nymph first, and just see if we can catch anything. It's now 7:20. We're going to have a quick look to see if we can see anything rising, so we can give a go with dry fly, but at the moment it doesn't look like anything's going to happen. So we might pull off early tonight. The time is now 7:45 and that's it. We're going home for something to eat. Tie the 2 flies that we used on when we fished the 5 rivers in Sheffield. It's basically I used 2 flies all day, one dry and one an nymph. Now this one's going to be the dry fly. It's tied on B100 Camus and hook. and it's fairly simple. I mean, all I'm going to do is attach the thread, run this down round the bend, because this fly, what we want it to do is sit into the water through the surface film with the body down a bit. Now I'm just going to trim off that waste thread, and then I'm going to attach some dubbing. Now the dubbing that we use for this one is from a rabbit. It's just the blue underfur from a rabbit patch, and I'm just going to wax the thread first and then attach a little bit of dubbing. So a little bit of wax, pop on some dubbing, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tease that out a little bit and roll that. And when you're putting dubbing on, it doesn't really matter if you do put too much on, because you can always take a bit off. And I'm just going to spin that into a nice roll. And once that looks about right, I'm going to wind the body up. Now the body, you want to be able to put a nice, neat, even body, which resembles a hatching fly. You take it to a point just about opposite the barb, because this is a point now where I'm going to actually tie in a hackle. So I'm just going to strip off some of that dubbing material because I don't need it, and let's just choose a hackle. I'm just going to strip off a few fibres from the bottom end of that hackle, and then I'm going to tie that in, good side facing me, and pop that at an angle and just tie that in so it's fairly solid. Now let's just turn round because this stalk's not quite round, so I'm just going to reattach that. So keep a firm grip of that, pop that on, and now I can take that thread back up to just behind the eye, and now I can start adding a few turns of hackle. And all I'm doing is winding that hackle through to the eye in touching turns until I get to just before the eye. What I'm going to do now is just trap off that hackle. I'm going to put a couple of turns in. That's got it. And then I'm going to just snip off that waste hackle. There we go. Now all I've got to do is whip finish that. I'm just going to get the whip finishing tool, and I'm going to put that about half a dozen turns, tie that off, just make sure I've cleared the eye of that, and if there's a few stray fibres, just clip off a few stray fibres that we don't need. And disattach the thread. Now when I mean clipping off the hackle, what we're actually doing is we're taking out a little slot underneath the fly itself. So I'm just going to go in with the scissors and trim that fairly close to the body, and it creates a little V shape, and I don't know whether the camera can actually pick that up. It just helps the fly sit a little bit deeper in the water and it sits on the surface. So that's the dry fly that we use on the day. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a nymph, and it's a basic nymph pattern. It's a black pattern that we tend to use quite a few of. We don't know why it works, but it tends to work quite well. And I'm tying this on a size 14. It's a straight eye, nice hook for when you're using gold beads. And what I'm going to attach is a small gold bead. A gold bead onto this hook. And this is a fairly simple pattern. I mean, you can tie it with or without a tail. This one I'm going to tie with that, and all I'm doing is attaching that thread, taking it down in touching turns right towards the bend of the hook, take off that waste, and I'm going to tie in a piece of fine copper wire. This is going to be used to actually, because I'm also putting a hackle around this fly, and I'm going to palmer it up towards the head. So I've attached that. Now the hackle I'm using, again, it's a badger hackle. It's fairly small, barbed, and I'm just going to attach that before I attach the body material. And the body material I'm going to use is just wool. Just raid some of these knitting box and get a little bit of wool out. And all I'm going to do is just, this is a 3-ply wool, so I'm going to strip a fibre out of that. That's enough. You don't have to do that neat, this one. This is one of the patterns that if you're losing a few of these on the river, you can tie loads up. It doesn't take that long to tie. All I'm going to do is take that thread right back up to the bead, and now form a body just by turning that wool and wrapping it around the hook shank. Nice neat body. Keep it fairly slim in profile. And then when I've got up to that bead, I can tie that off. Tie that off, snip off that waist, and now I can actually wind up the hackle. What I'm going to do is take that in fairly open turns up that body right up to the bead. Just take that one a little bit closer. I think it just gives it a little bit of form and movement. Once I get to the bead, tie it off, snip off the waist, and now I can take this hackle back through it, and all I'm going to do is, as I'm winding this up in open turns again, just waggle it about from side to side so you're not trapping too many of these fibres against the body. And then take that right back up through to that bead, and then once you get to that area, just tie that off for a couple of turns in, and again lock that off, snip off that waist, and whip finish. And that's the one that we caught on the day. And I put about half a dozen turns in, tighten that up, make sure that bead's not loose, snip off that waist, and that's it, that's the finished fly. I'm just going to pop that one in that loop. I'm going to take that dry, pop that one in there, and that's the 2 flies that we use on the day.